Remember black cappers with the hat backwards, and tracksuits tucked into maxes or strap classics. Back before I knew that crack would attract addicts, and the needles that we found in the sandpit would pack damage. I remember Bedminster being a mad passage from East to North Street. I saw scenes I never fully understand then, but see we transcend from little man to man them. Your eye span widens and widens to your surroundings. From snakes and ladders to snakes and blackers, where ages added up on cards to pay for packets. Rizzler and crate to pass in the station we're sat in, till we hit the paint and raving patterns. It was skating in the days, and then later on graphing, rapping, blazing and scrapping. Then back to the park, Dame Emily, essentially the centerpiece heart of where we grew, moved, repped it and marked, set from the start. This one's for the family, y'all know who you are. Yo, it's D-E-A-N-L-A-N-E, rep to the end. From the hardcore skaters, the painters and friends, to the little scallywags on the rays in the blend. Yo, it's D-E-A-N-L-A-N-E, rep to the end. From the burnt out two strokes, the blokes with the pen, to the crack addicts, damage trying to make it to 10.
Y'all raised to the mold, from the baguettes all racing the dough. We used to run around the streets late, evading patrol, blazing a split and cruising the scene, cause we had now else better to do, if you know what I mean. So we go to the dean, could almost guarantee some sort of shit going down, but it's all part of the package if you know the sound. Hold your hands in the sky and say Dean Lane, the part we grew up in and lived in through our teenage years. Hopping on and off of rooftops on our weekdays. Here's an introduction to the place we repping, each face clear. Yeah, some of the jokest shit that I've ever seen. Things I'll never forget, some things I wish that I didn't see. Literally, this place is where we started the whole show, and I'm gonna rep the bits until the world knows of our postcode. Skaters, kiddies kicking ball around the course, drinking beer, streaming the papers. Crackheads in the park, choking on vapors. Lose your money that Vegas if you gamble and get caught making more moves around your neighbors.
Yo, it's D-E-A-N-L-A-N-E, rep to the end. From the hardcore skaters, the painters and friends, to the little scallywags on the rays in the blend. Yo, it's D-E-A-N-L-A-N-E, rep to the end. From the burnt out two strokes, the blokes with the pen, to the crack addicts, damage trying to make it to 10.
Break your neck, snap, lose your tooth rap.
Yo, who's that?
It's those honky spitters with the truth that keeps you coming back like a food rap. Crack for your ears, listen clear as we take you through the roots back.
Yo, welcome to the Pride Rock podcast. This is Rowan. Today I had a chat with George. I met him through Aaron actually, and we just talked about a few things, about life, about the shadow side, you know. A lot of things actually. It's pretty interesting. Had a good time. I would like to share it with you guys. Hope you'll like it. So have a good day. Speak to you soon. Later. But the same thing happened, and that was for the first time. So I was hoping it was something temporarily, but apparently not. So let's see, how it goes.
Yeah, but what did you get? Like a blue screen or something?
No, it just stopped entirely. You know, this stop motion thing. Basically, I saw the same thing, and I couldn't move my my mouse or anything. So
Oh, that's weird. I had a problem with RAM a while back, and I just reset the RAM, and that solved it.
yeah, but
My,
I couldn't even use it anymore. I had to restart it. You know, so
oh right, yeah, no, okay.
that's a problem. But it's a new laptop as well, so that's kind of problematic. But I hope this will solve everything.
Yeah,
We'll see.
hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so you were talking about going or applying for college, right?
Yeah, yes. So I've not been doing too much today, just chilling out really. I've been applying for university and that, and I'm quite looking forward to that in the way that the main reason me and my girlfriend, well, one of the main reasons we're quite interested in. Oh, sorry, I wondered if you were still there.
Yeah, I'm
Just to
still
get our
there.
own headspace and think on our own ideas, because I just we went on holiday like a week or so ago, and when I came back, it was just very daunting almost to be back around my parents and that sort of thing, because I quite like being
On
in my
yourself.
own,
Yeah.
yeah, just thinking for myself and that sort of thing.
Okay, so you're moving out as well then.
Yeah.
And are you going to live with your girlfriend or by yourself?
It's by myself, but it's at the same sort of area.
That's good. That's always good.
It's
Nice. What are you going to study?
anthropology. Do you know what that is?
I doesn't know what it entails entirely. I know my grandfather studied it, I think, or did a
That's pretty
course or
cool.
something. Yeah. But what is
It's
it
like
exactly? Human behavior, right?
yeah. It's the study of human behavior, but the at this particular university they do human anthropology, environmental anthropology, and I think it's ecology. Oh no, that's it. It's conservation. So oh no, so it's human, biological, social, biological, and conservation. And biological, it looks at how you interact with other humans and how that affects your biology, obviously. And then conservation is how the environment affects humans. And then social is just how humans interact with each other. And the reason I'm so interested in it initially, one of the things that got me so interested was the fact that by doing research projects and getting into becoming an actual anthropologist, you can work on changing certain social policy. And one of the professors at the university there was telling me how he went over to Africa and sort of worked in some policy that made it harder for people to poach over there. So it can make some sort of change, and that's what I'm all about. I just want to make things better in the world, you know?
Yeah, and you're educated at the same time as well, because
Yeah,
that's really important as well. A lot of people want to do that, but most of the time they lack education of some sort. That's when you get all those crazy hippie people from the New Age community whom are talking about flat Earth theory and whatnot.
yeah,
Those people are very idealistic, in nature. But it takes the spirit, but also the brains. You have to do something, and not just scream all these stupid things.
yeah. I think
So,
it is. It is. One. I mean, there's been quite a few with the sort of the Awaken Brave channel and all of that. There's
yeah.
been quite a few. There's quite a heated debates over not heated in aggressive in any way, but there's quite a lot of debate over whether the education system is good. But I think personally, from what I've experienced, I last year, and I got the grades that I wanted, and it did feel really good because I taught myself an entire subject. My
Mm.
teacher was shit, and I just sat down and I learnt it myself. And I think it's what you make of it. Like what I want to do is I find the subject interesting. It's like at psychology at college. That was really, really interesting. That taught me some amazing things. Like Aaron Berry,
Mhm.
when he's talking about the ego, Freud. I've learnt some bits of that, and fair enough. You don't need to go to college, but it's a useful tool. And if I was to not go to university, I'd still be here with my parents. They'd be nagging me every day. What are you doing? What are you doing? I just want to become my own person, you know?
Yeah, it also depends on the perspective you're having when you're going to school. When you're only using it for as a tool, to do something greater after that, it's okay, like in your case. But a lot of people don't know what they want to do. They don't really think about life or something like that. They're just going to school day in, day out without thinking, and then it becomes something very poisonous. And I think a lot of people have went through a school like that. So that's why they're coming. That's where their perspective comes from. But you
Yeah,
also have people like you, of course, who benefit from it. Or and benefiting from school is something relative. I mean, do you benefit from school if you end up at an office, and you make your
yeah,
money and you have a 9 to 5 job, and you're safe? Does that benefit you? According to societal ideas, you do benefit from it, but from a much higher perspective, I would say you don't, because you're
yeah.
not growing at all. You're just doing the same thing day in and day out.
That's why I think that's why I made one of my videos saying that I think it's very important to remember your goals in whatever you're doing. And I think when I first came into I've had a break obviously. My school college has just finished,
Hmm.
And when I first sort of was like, wow, I can now do what I want to do, I wasn't sure what to do for a long time. And I think if you just keep mindful of what sort of things really resonate with you, then it just feels amazing to do them. And that's why the other night, it was really late, but I decided, I'm going to start writing this book or this novel that I want to start on. And although I've just done the first page, I've been thinking of these preceding days where I want to go with it, and it makes me feel really good to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, you accomplish something. You're focusing your energy on something constructive, instead of Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people are doing nowadays, myself included, because
Yeah, but at the same time, though, I think I don't see. I feel like sometimes I get a bit too. I think into things a bit too deep. But the problem I've been sort of having is I want to focus down and learn and do this sort of thing, but I want to do it alongside, doing fun things, enjoying what's around us. And I think there's almost like I don't know whether hysteria is the right word, but there's almost like this idea that's being spread that you should always be doing something constructed. I'm not sure. I just feel like it's. Do you think it's okay to Netflix and chill and do other things? Like, what's your
I
view on that?
think talking about both those two sides, it depends on from which place you're coming from. I mean, you had a long day of work, you're tired, and people have been bitching to you all day, and you just want to forget all of that. You don't want to think about what happened. You don't want to deal with your stress, and you're just going to watch Netflix and forget about it. I don't think that's very very healthy, and a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
But if you've been working a lot and you just want to have a good time, or there's this series you genuinely want to see, I would say go for it, because that's the thing also. A lot of people are watching Netflix, which is this, for the people who don't know, I think everyone knows, but it's basically this website people created to watch movies on.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you're not even watching something because you really want to see it. You're just watching
That's
it
true,
to
yeah.
get your thoughts, away, and that's not healthy. And about, grinding the whole time, working towards your goals. I think it's good, but first off, you shouldn't do it too hard, because it's also healthy to, sometimes take some steps off, to relax. But also it's about why you're doing this. Are you doing this because you feel like, oh, everyone is doing all these crazy things with their life, I need to do something as well? Are you comparing yourself with others? Or do you feel like, okay, I really feel like I want to make a change, and I want to do this or that? So I think that's the thing that's really important. Those are the things that are really important to
Yeah,
consider.
I think that's a really key point you make there. Like when I'm writing certain things and when I'm going on these sort of long thought trails, and recently I get really almost in like a different frame of like it almost in like an altered state of consciousness. I get really really hyped and I research into things and really sort of emotional and feeling the vibe. Just go through topics recently where I can't think about any other like any other thing. Oh, sorry, just wanted to check your internet was still there. Um, so when I'm doing that sort of thing, and you're really writing from the soul, you're really researching, and it really resonates with you, I think that's what you've got to do. I think you have got to be careful not to just do something because you feel like you should.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to lower your vibration even more and deflate you even more.
And sometimes it's good to go with the flow and just, do whatever and let time fly by. But sometimes you have to, follow some kind of a schedule, because, back in the day when I was younger, I would watch all these documentaries about aliens and conspiracy theories, and before you know it, your day is over. And you
Yeah.
probably you didn't do anything with your day, and you probably forgot almost everything you've heard. So it's also about keeping in mind what you want to accomplish, and not
I
just
think
watching things because whatever.
I think that's a good point as well. Like sort of managing what you want to do a bit more. Like you sort of say you want to do something, you want to do something that working towards your goals and that, but then plan some other sort of things that you can do alongside, or the other way around. Like you want to have a bit of a chill time, but you also want to achieve something. So you just got to manage it so you don't get too stuck on one thing, maybe.
It's all about self-awareness. I mean, some people can work longer than other people, and you really have to pay attention to how you work and how long you can work for, and how much free time you need and why you need that much free time. You know, I had to figure all that shit out. I had to basically find out my own being, and I'm still doing that, so I can have a productive day, basically, because I'm all day at work, and when you come home you're tired, but you still want to improve, you know, work on things. And that can be very hard sometimes because you're exhausted. And I think, you know, if we're talking about conspiracy theories, I think that whomever, you know, created this system put some thought in that, because they're making you work so hard and so much that you almost don't even have time to work on yourself. You know, you just want to chill out when you come home, and the weekends are just for, you know, chilling as well, or, you know.
I think that's an interesting point. Like, I find that sometimes it's nice to indulge in those sorts of things, but I think it's definitely important to be mindful not to get too caught up in them, because the times when I feel the best, like, and I can't think of anything else, I can't get any intrusive thoughts, just purely there, is when I'm doing what feels natural and right to me, and I'm, you know, as you're saying, it's self-discovery, that sort of thing. And often a good example is when you're out in nature. I often find, in fact, I'll give you maybe a visual picture. I rode into Thetford Forest with my girlfriend, and along that holiday I'd been having a bit of internal conflict type thing, not about her or anything, but I'd been getting a bit upset about intrusive thoughts. But as soon as I was in that forest, and as soon as I was riding it was just perfect, pure bliss, just seeing all these trees whiz by you, seeing a beautiful green ocean. And just when you're engulfed in the, I don't know, let's call it the poeticness of life, and the things that truly resonate with you, you just can't go wrong. Now, comparing that to having a drink with your mates at the pub, that's a nice thing to do, but you don't want to be doing that every week. I don't know, I feel like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you could be doing it every week, actually. You could be doing it every week, but you don't want to get caught up in that and forget about the things that truly resonate with you.
Right.
I mean, if that was what someone enjoys and they, you know, really enjoy going out with their friends, then that's what their thing is. I think it's down to personal touch, you know?
But when you're talking about hanging out with friends, I think that is important. You know,
Yeah,
if you
that's
would
true, that's
ask
true.
me, like, okay, what would be healthier to do in your free time, hanging out with other people or watching Netflix? I would say go hang out with your friends,
Yeah,
because
no, you're
you're
right there, yeah.
interacting, you're socializing, and you're subconsciously learning, or I am at least, because I'm really interested in psychology as well, but I'm using it more in practical, you know, ways in my day-to-day life. I'm observing people and looking at the interactions and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's really, but it's important for everyone, you know, socializing. I think it's even unhealthy if you don't do it for a long time, you know. And I used to do that, and I definitely it didn't help me at all, you know. So that's definitely something. But I think the reason you feel so good when you're focusing on writing or whatever is because you're basically, you know, focusing on the now. You're present,
Yeah, that's
and
true, that's true.
when those thoughts come up, you aren't anymore. But what's very interesting, it's good that you talked about this, because I did a podcast with this woman about the inner child work, or shadow work they call it. Are you familiar with that concept?
Maybe very slightly, I'm not sure.
Okay, so their ideas, and I think it's from Jung as well, or Freud, I'm not sure, that, you know, people always use these, always basically run away for their feelings, you know. So when you're young, something bad happens and you put it away, you know, and and during your life, a lot of things will happen, and you don't deal with it. You don't feel the feelings you're feeling. You're neglecting them. You're also neglecting certain parts of your personality, or you're not accepting them. And the idea basically is that they aren't really gone, they're still there and they're haunting you. They'll come up as, you know, thoughts or feelings, or in my case, it's stifleness or not trusting people. And the child work and shadow work is about, you know, delving into your subconscious and you know, really going into those feelings and trying to find out where they come from, what happened, and, you know, basically giving them a place. And there are all these techniques you could use. There are various ways to do it, but, you know, I've been beginning to do that. And it's really interesting, and it can
Yeah.
definitely benefit you, you know, and to help you become present.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you can also learn a lot from dreams,
Yeah,
because often, like, things like that will come up in dreams and then they appear to you, and then you look back on what happened in that dream, and if you, depending on how you interpret it, you can gain quite a lot from that.
true. I think the dream, it's about self-awareness first, becoming aware of those feelings, because that's already a lot for most people. I've had to put a lot of work in. Okay, why? Okay, now I'm feeling this at this moment. You know, locating
Yeah,
all those things, and now I'm aware of everything. And now it's about, you know, going into the roots of those feelings, and there will probably like be three causes of all the little things be left, you know, and I want to, you know, solve those.
yeah,
But I think dreams and stuff are there to make you aware, you know, and
yeah,
whether that's some weird spiritual, you know, thing, or it's just your mind, I don't know, but I think you can, yeah, exactly, gain a lot from, you know, writing them down, keeping a dream journal, and letting someone interpret them, you know, or you can do
yeah.
it yourself.
No, I think often it's good. I find it quite useful to interpret them myself, because sometimes I see things that I've seen over the past few days, and I'm like, oh, that's where that came from. Oh, that's where that came from. And linking back to what I was saying about earlier about, like, how much you should do of one thing, maybe you're right. Maybe what I was saying was actually incorrect there. Maybe I'm overthinking it, and really, you just need to go with the flow. Obviously, be mindful of the fact that there are things that will throw you off path. But if you think about them too much, you're not enjoying what you're doing anyway. So maybe it is just a case of going with the flow. I mean, what would you say on that?
It depends on your pet, you know. I used to lock myself into my room, so for me it's really good to, you know, go out, you know, socialize with people, learn a lot when it comes down to those things, you know, girls and whatnot. Those things are good for me. But you already have a girlfriend. For all I know, you have a lot of friends already. I don't know.
It
Um,
does make you feel good to go out with friends. I wasn't, when I was saying like not going out every week. I think I said it in the wrong way. What I meant was not getting caught up in going out,
yeah, I know what you
say
mean.
drinking every night or something like that. I meant realizing what is could be considered, if you was to indulge in it too much, superficial. But at the same time, what you said about meeting up with friends and learning about different people, even if they weren't people who were 100% spiritually minded, people who have a similar sort of vibration can make you feel amazing. Me and my girlfriend went out with a friend of ours who's just he really loves nature, really loves being outside, and we just had an amazing time. You know, it is really nice to socialize. You know, you're all
No,
right.
I'm not even looking for people like you, you know. I mean, I don't even have the hope there are a lot of them out there. I don't think there are, and I'm actually changing my beliefs because I think that, you know, what you believe is what you'll get back at you. So, but, you know,
Mm.
I just want people that are easy to talk to, you know, you can just have a good time with, and, you know, it's all about the vibrations from, you know, the feeling, you
Yeah.
know. I don't know, intellectually I wouldn't know what to, you know, list from. Oh, I want the person to have this, that, or that. I have no idea. I don't really care. It's just about the vibes.
No,
Um,
I get that. I get that a lot, because if a lot of people, I don't even know if I see them now. Like, I don't even know if I can sort of. By see them, I mean, like, when I'm talking to people, if is someone who's a negative vibe, they're just instantly not there for me, because I just won't bother associating with someone like that,
yeah,
because they're just not going to be conducive to your lifestyle, you know?
It's true, but for me, it's not that black and white. You know, I'm pretty sensitive, so I'll pick up all these things. So when I'm around people and I feel like I'm closed off to them, it doesn't necessarily mean there's something going on with that person. It could also mean that I'm projecting, you know, some insecurities I have, and that's a problem I'm having now. Because
Yeah.
sometimes I can easily talk with people like now, but sometimes I can't. You know, yeah, they could just be assholes, but sometimes, you know, after a while, I find
Yeah.
out like, oh, they're actually pretty cool, but I was just, you know, subconsciously.
Again, you raise a good point. Like, I made it sound as if instantly I'll be like, no.
Yeah,
But then again, I've done that before and then realized that some people are actually quite nice.
yeah, I
So
did the
I
same.
think it is it's often a lot more complex than just yes or no. But I think if someone is an asshole,
Yeah.
then I won't bother with them, you know?
That's right on, because I've met some people, and you know, with some people you're really sure like, okay, I don't want to spend any time with them. But you know, at work as well, you know, sometimes there's this gray area, and you know, I'm comparing my interactions with them to, you know, other interactions I have that are going really easily and flowly. You know, we're both, you know, investing in the conversation. Yeah, and then I'm not sure, you know, has it something to do with me or with them, or is it just not working out? You know,
I
that's
think
something really hard for me to. That's a
I think
problem I'm having now.
I think again it might be on maybe this. I'm not sure if I'm right to identify this, but I think maybe again it's not. But looking into it too much, like sometimes it can be just to like you know what you just said there. Other people, I know this might be wrong, but some other people might forget about that.
Mhm.
Like I often I will be having a conversation and say something like that annoys you, like something not annoys you, but something that you want to continue discussing will come up, and I'll keep talking about it. And then the other day, my friend and my girlfriend were like, why are you still going on about that? Just don't worry about it. And I think sometimes it is. I think the thinking mind can sometimes interrupt the now. And I don't know. I just was just applying it to what you were saying. I was thinking maybe you was reading into that too much, and maybe in order to interact that bit more would just be to be chill about it. I don't know. Maybe I don't know you, so that could be completely wrong. But I'm just thinking in
But
my case.
you have that as well sometimes.
I
Yeah,
do.
I think we're not, you know, we're seeing those things, you know, like they are, but you know, I just think people don't make a big deal out of it, you know,
Mm.
maybe it has, you know, I think I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. Maybe it has something to do with that, you know, because a lot of people don't really, yeah, they do care. Sometimes it's a little bit awkward, but they'll be like, oh, whatever, you know, and they'll go on. When I was younger, I used to think you would have these perfect conversations all the time, and I would project this on upon all these people, you know. But as I found out, you know, a few years ago already, it doesn't work like that. You know, people are. It's always a little bit. You know, a lot of conversations are always slightly awkward. You know what I mean? They're a little
Yeah.
bit because you have two people interacting, two people who grew up differently. You know, different minds. You know, so it makes sense. You know, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something to do with perfectionism or something.
Yeah, I can be a bit like that. It's a bit,
Yeah.
I've seen that at work when me and my friend are asked to do a job, we always overdo it, and then they're like, why have you like put all that extra effort in?" And we're just like, we wanted it to be good, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it has something to do with that. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. But you know, I'm still working on that, and that's basically what keeps that's basically my reason to still keep working. You know, pay attention to things like that. You know, pay attention to my development. Basically, I don't really care about about my job. It doesn't really.
I think that's a good thing. That's why it's good to have conversations like this because even if the ideas say were wrong, like say I just said something wrong there, as long as it's just it's useful to gain that bit more knowledge, which is why I think talking with all these sorts of people can be quite so interesting. Like if you to anyone is this being recorded, this
Yeah,
video?
yeah.
Yeah, so to anyone who is listening, I think it's really something you've got to do. If you feel that you're interested in these kind of psychological, spiritual, conspiratorial, any of these kind of topics, talking to people who think along a similar kind of line is just amazing. It really teaches you more about yourself and more about other people, and I think it's great.
It's true. And what I would also say, what I notice is that a lot of people who are into this kind of subjects are in a victim mentality, I noticed that not all of them, but most of them, like me against the world, I'm the only one, other people are stupid
Yeah.
or so-called sheeple.
Mm,
Stop that. Change your
yeah.
perspective. There are actually a lot of people you wouldn't even guess, whom are into these kind of stuff. Don't hide that side from others, just express yourself, and you'll find that there are a lot of people who are into, similar subjects, or at least you can talk with about this kind of things. It is all about your perspective, if you
Mm.
have like a perspective like, oh, it's me against the world, you will have this you will attract people like that to you. I really believe that.
Yeah, I think it's all about the ego a lot, and I think once you start to not be too caught up in your thoughts, and the way, if do you know about Freud's
Yeah,
thing? Because I'm not too much of a big fan of Freud, but I will admit he's quite intelligent. You know about the id, the ego, and the superego. Do you know about that?
I've heard about it. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think if you was to talk about the way a lot of these sort of groups talk about the ego, it sounds to me like they're talking about the collection of those things. They're talking about the id is basically the thing that, or the ID is the thing that it tells you to, you want this, you want that, you're going to go out and you're going to go do this and do that, and it's just impulse based. The superego is like almost like the angel, and it makes you consider all of these things. So if someone's got this overactive superego, they're a bit too concerned about what people think. And then the ego in Freud's, this is all Freud's view,
yeah,
sorts out these two things. So that as a collection, I think when you're too focused within all these thoughts bouncing around within those three concepts, then you're too in your head, and I've sort of lost my trail. So what I'm sort of saying is, when these people are thinking too much and not living in the now and just attracting other people, then it's not doing them any justice. Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and it's all about self-awareness. Because if you're unaware of that, you're just going to repeat basically your program. Everyone has a program, and when you become aware of that program, you can change it. You can, and it's also good to have a healthy a balance between thinking, delving into your thoughts and just living in the now. Because if you're living in the now all the time, you're basically, like I said before, with the inner child work, you're neglecting yourself, and you're
Mm.
basically running away for your own feelings and thoughts, and they'll pop up even if you don't want to, and they will come up subconsciously, and then you can't do anything about it. So
Yeah, I think that's why in a way, it's important to be again, as we said, in the now, because when you it all sort of depends which sort of idea you follow, because the whole Eckhart Tolle type thing is,
yeah,
don't just feel everything now. So if you are able to be more in the now, you'll feel those past feelings there and then. And I think as soon as you achieve that, you've brought that level of self-discovery and gone through those past feelings and past thoughts, then you just start to enter this higher vibrational field of bliss, you know? Do
it's
you know?
true, but that's like the dark side of spirituality as well. You can
Mm.
use spirituality to basically walk away from your own problems. So
Yeah.
that's where I disagree with Eckhart Tolle. I agree with all his material, but I don't agree with him on that you should always be like that. You should also use time to reflect on yourself. For instance, I went to Sweden by myself
Mm.
just to see what would happen. No television or whatsoever, no people to talk to. And what I found was that I had a lot of dark thoughts and feelings. And what I would usually do is just watch television, and I wouldn't have to think about it. And I would also always have this nasty feeling, but it wasn't really clear. But now I was by myself, and I felt it all the time. And the only thing I could do was, basically be with it and, go into it and maybe meditate a little bit and try to you can do all these visual techniques to get more information on what's going on. But I think that's really important. And of course, try to be as present as possible during your day-to-day life. I mean, you shouldn't do all these reflective things during school or when you're at work. That's not beneficial to you.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. So it's important to reflect on things in order to make yourself a better person.
Yeah.
I think that's why that's sort of what Aaron, and I'm not sure, I might be wrong on that, but I think that's what he was saying about you can't always just be the only person who could live like Eckhart Tolle is Eckhart Tolle,
Yeah.
because you've got goals and things you want to go out there and do. So I think it is all a combination, I think you're right on that.
And I'm trying to find a pattern. Like I said, I just want to at least spend like maybe 30 minutes a day to just be with myself and try to think like, okay, what did, just go through my day. Like, okay, what did I feel? Are there some things, I need to work on, like things, because, life goes so fast, and if you don't take moments like that, you'll just create more problems and more problems and more problems, Up until my 22s, I'm not 22, all those problems I need to solve. But from now on, I just don't want to create more, emotional baggage, If I feel something shitty, I want to feel it so I can integrate it immediately instead of in 6 years integrating it, I just want to do it now. So I think that's really important,
Yeah, I think that's important what you said, dedicating some time to yourself and being with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that can have a good effect on your life to do that. And that's why I think it's important. Like, I haven't been able to get around to doing it too much. But
Keep on talking. I get my charger. I can hear you.
That's why I think it's important to keep on doing meditation most days. And that's what that is. Like, it lowers down... it brings down your thoughts to baseline and allows you to think more clearly on things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think when you do meditate, you are completely without thoughts, and then when you do reflect back on things, you can analyze them a lot better.
It's true, and it's also good to write things down, But it all depends what kind of person you are. I tend to be, think to all over the place, So it's really hard for me to organize all those thoughts. But you also have other kinds of people, So I think it's all about finding your own way, basically.
Yeah. So let's hear a bit more about you. So what are your sort of goals and things that you'd like to do? I very much like this Pride Rock podcast and this idea of like interviewing people and all of that. What sort of where do you want to go with that then?
Well, I basically had a rough past, and I had to put a lot of work into myself to, even, be confidently, speaking to most people. I wouldn't have problems with anyone, but with a lot of people I would. So one of my goals is to, basically, remove all the more layers of the onion, because I believe it's not about learning new things, but mostly about unlearning a lot of things.
Yeah, no, I've said that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely one goal, and I'm improving every day. So and with the podcasting, I would just have a lot of thoughts and ideas I noticed when I spoke with certain people. So I felt like, we have the internet nowadays. I can basically talk with people from all over the world, and let's just do that and record it, and maybe I can help some people, and maybe because when I think by myself, I won't have a lot of these ideas. They usually come up when I'm talking with someone else. So I thought,
Yeah.
if I record it, maybe I can learn something from my
It does
own
get
conversations.
things flowing, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
that's really really interesting. So that's definitely one of my goals. But I don't really have a clear career kind of goal, or that's something I've been struggling with, basically finding that out. So I'm trying to live by the day, try to figure out how to improve myself, and yeah, basically that.
But
Are-
it's not. I suppose.
Oh, are you still there?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still
Oh,
here.
great. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. What was you saying?
Yeah. So I want to basically work on myself. That's what I'm doing now, and I've still a lot of negative thought patterns, and I don't really trust uh, the universe. I've been noticing, so that's those are things I want to really work on. So yeah, that basically.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think as what I was replying to when it sort of crashed, I was sort of saying that I think it's important not to see the only goal as career goals. I think self-discovery and that sort of thing is just as valuable and very important.
Yeah,
So these sort of conversations and this podcast is a good way to get things going.
yeah. Yeah, it is, and yeah, that's basically the only thing that's keeping me at my job, because I'm basically seeing my job as a place I can use to, evolve basically, because I'm with all these people. A lot of them I don't really like, but mostly because of, insecurities and whatnot, not because they're assholes. So what I'm basically doing is very consciously, trying to solve all those things within me, so
Yeah.
that's very interesting. I think a lot of people are just working for the money or whatnot, and they're not really motivated. But for me, it's basically the other way around. So yeah, but it can be. I think it can be a little bit creepy, because I'll go as far as basically spying on people. When I'm eating at lunch, I'll be listening to other people's conversations. Noticing different kind of things. And trying to get things out of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit
I
weird
don't
maybe.
know. I think that's not so much weird. That's just psychology, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just observing people. So that's something people talk about quite a lot, being the observer, and that is it's probably a good thing to do, you know?
And I've been thinking on some new things lately. It's about being a chameleon basically. So
Mm.
you should talk to people, at the place where they are at. So you should try to adjust to them, and maybe that's very normal, and I already did that, but I'm trying to do that more consciously now. So for instance, when you're at a place where there are a lot of people and a lot of impulses, you should maybe try to use less words, and keep it plain, and come quicker to the point. And maybe when you're at a more quiet setting, you have a more, conversation like this. I've been
Yeah.
putting a lot of thought into that, because I notice how, especially women, when you're talking to them, they're really easily distracted and whatnot. So
Mm.
I've been thinking about that, and just adjusting your word usage to the kind of person you're talking with, things
Yeah,
like that.
I find that. I find sometimes that sometimes I can get a little bit too involved. In fact, maybe not a little bit too involved, but I quite like. I find that in many situations you've often got to sort of cater to that situation, and I don't know whether that's a good thing. Like I think it can be useful, and it's an important skill to have in like to um, sort of cater how you speak and how you articulate yourself to that situation. But I think sometimes it might feel better to just always be. I know I find it hard to say authentic self because a few people have disputed over whether you can have an authentic self. But I feel like if you are always you in whatever situation, you can't go too wrong. I'm not so sure. What do you think on that?
Yeah, but I think you can be yourself and still, adjust,
Mm,
tone things a little bit down, or I think that doesn't necessarily have something to do with, being yourself. For instance, if you would have this really loud guy who would also always be, the most important thing is, trying to figure out who you are, because
yeah.
the behavior people are used to from you doesn't really mean you are like that.
Yeah, that's true. I think it is just about doing what feels right to you at the end of the day.
Because, a lot of people at work know me as this really quiet guy, but when I'm just outside of work and I'm just chilling, I'm actually pretty loud. So, yeah, it's basically a mask I'm using. So it does. Yeah, is first off you have to figure out who you are. What you're doing, how you're doing it. Why you're doing it, and that
Yeah.
already takes a lot of time.
I think maybe that can be possibly why it's harder for people involved in this sort of spiritual thing to sort of just be in a way, because people who aren't into that sort of thing, they and just within the system, they've got it set that who they are is this person, they like doing this sort of thing, and they don't think that much more into it, and they're quite comfortable with that. But people who are trying to go outside the paradigm, going against these things, and realize the sort of negative and the powerful things that have had an effect on them, they can find that hard, and then it can be different. But I think when you do start to realize who you are, and you start to maybe build yourself, like you said, unlearning and relearning,
Yeah.
it feels amazing. Now, I've experienced some things like that, and I'm quite interested in that at the moment, unlearning certain things and looking into new ways of thinking,
What did you unlearn?
Well, I think, it's basically I've sort of become aware that there's a lot of sexism in the media. Now, I don't know what you think too much on this topic, but I feel that they objectify women very, very much, and what I'm trying to do is sort of unlearn some of what I've been taught. Now, that it's sort of a process, and there's no negative sides to it. It's just a process of seeing things differently and just changing how I look at people, because I think it is bad to be almost trained with groups of men to be like, oh, that's a nice look at, like, I don't know, just personally, for me, I just think we should view people as people, and I often, or generally always do, but when you're exposed to so much not viewing people as people and just as objectifying, I think it can have damage on you. So that's one thing that I'm trying to unlearn.
I'm really interested in a women topic as well, and I'm putting a lot of time in that as well, and what you're talking about, when you want something from someone, then you'll get that. So you're in the club or something, or in a bar, and you see someone, you're horny, and you're like think, oh, what should I say to impress her or whatnot. When you're coming from a place like that, then you're objectifying, and that's really fucked up. But
Yeah,
when you're just dancing or having a beer or just having a laugh, and you'll see all of a sudden a girl next to you, and without thinking you just, hey, what's up? Then it's already something completely else. So
yeah,
that's what I'm becoming aware of, so that will definitely help you, if if you feel like you're objectifying women, just try to look at it from a greater, perspective, because I do
yeah.
that as well. I have it with all people, I have these preconceived notions about them or something, and
It's
I
just what we've been taught. It is just the program. That's why unlearning is so key to when you said unlearning, it is a very key thing for me. I think we are brought up in this sort of society and conditioned to these sort of norms, and to break out of them is almost freeing. And when
yeah.
you do break out of them, you almost feel it.
And with people in general, I mean, I try to look at, people like, okay, this is all I'm seeing. What I think about it has partially something to do with, how things are, but also about how I was brought up and how I'm looking at things and what they're triggering in me. But what basically is going on, is that I only see 10%, and the other 90% I probably will never see, or maybe a little bit more. But there's still a lot of other things in that person. So I'm now trying to look at people as, as universes on their own. It's a little bit crazy, and it's not like I'm thinking about people like that, but it's just this mental image I have. I can't really, put in words, not even in my own language. But
Mm.
it helps me to, to get out of, all those feelings I have about people that basically have a big influence on how I'm going to interact with them. Because when I see someone who looks a little bit angry or a little bit, you're more inclined to not talk to that person or be a little bit more shy, so things like that.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. It's just by defeating what you've been taught in the past and coming at it with a more fresh perspective, you can form your own sort of judgments. And although you could say that your judgments are formed based on past experiences, if you're more present within your within your current experiences, maybe what you think will be based on more what you've learned recently, which is why I think this sort of thing is so important. Because if you're learning to look at people in a positive kind of way, then when you look at people and you talk to them, it's going to be a more positive experience.
True, and it's also about being present and empathetic with, how you used to think about it. Because if you're just like, oh, fuck that, that's stupid, you're just, judging it, and you will feel bad about it. That's not gonna help you at all. It's really important to understand why you thought about, whatever like that. Why you did that, and you have to
I think
trace
it
it all
can.
back. Yeah, because people are always saying like, oh, I'm an empath or something, or I'm very sensitive. I can always feel other people's feelings. Yeah, that's fun, but it's crucial that you can also feel your own stuff, and that you know
Mm,
where you're coming from yourself, because you have to live with yourself forever, So
yeah, that's very true. I think it is an important point that you should not feel bad for past ways of looking at things, but just accept that that is something that was there, but it was just when you look into it and don't ignore it, and you go, that was because I've been taught this, and that was because of that. You can move past it.
yes, that's very important. Don't judge it because I see it a lot of I've seen it a lot of times at self-help kind of communities or whatnot. They're teaching all this stuff, but they're basically like, oh, this is bad and this is good. Black and white, blah blah blah. But it just doesn't work like that. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think all this kind of thing is all just self-discovery, and I think when you look at the larger picture of it, when you look into the fact that we're all just consciousness experiencing itself and that sort of thing, I think that almost raises it to like another vibration. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
when you start to look at it like that and you look at the bigger picture, then you don't need to worry about these things. Like, well, one thing, I mean, this is just an idea, but you were saying you want to, that the shadow self and all of that sort of thing, the shadow child, I think you called it. Well, idea that I think is Dom mentions, Dom, do you know
Yeah.
Dom? Yeah, he was sort of saying just to avert your gaze onto positive things. I don't know. I think there's lots of different angles you can do, and I think it's just a case of trying it and seeing what
Yeah.
works for you. Because after all, we are all different kinds of being. We are all taught different things. So I think, and our minds all work differently. So I think if we try out lots of different things, eventually we'll find something that works for us. And I think that's why it's important when people are saying, no, this is the way you got to do it. You've got to say, all right, I understand your opinion, but I may like to try it this way. I may like to try it that way. I don't know. It just occurred to me that we are all very different. Like Aaron sees things in a very, I decide what I think, that kind of thing. And I don't know. It's just different ways of looking at things. I think it is important to just be mindful that we are all different.
It's true, but I think there are some key principles, and you can go about those in different ways, of course. But I really think it's important for everyone to look at, your fears and your
Yeah, that's true.
insecurities, and and what kind of way you use to do that. That can differ for everyone, of course, and it's also very important to have a positive focus, of course. As long as you don't use it to forget all those bad feelings. I really believe that's a really bad thing. I used to do it as well, and it's just not gonna work. It's and
Yeah, I think. Sorry, you carry on.
I really believe in the law of attraction. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically what you put out is what comes back, in different kind of ways. And I think when you don't solve those problems or those negative, feelings, they'll manifest in your direct surroundings somewhat.
Yeah, I think one thing for me is though I think again talking about it depending on the person. I think if you have past fears and past things you need to work on, then work on them, realize them, and see how you felt that way. But I think one thing for me personally is I've sort of gone over that sort of thing in like certain areas of the past, and I've looked back on things, and I think sometimes this is why I say it depends on the person. Like say so Dom and Aaron's parents killed themselves, and he's got obviously there will be negative feelings surrounding that. But I think if you have dealt with it and it doesn't need to be looked at anymore, if Aaron was to suddenly keep going over and over and over, it won't do him any good. So I think again, that's why I'm saying it depends on the person. If I say I had something going on that was bothering me, like what you're saying, if I didn't deal with it and I didn't address it, then that would create a problem. But I think if I dealt with it and addressed it, but then someone reminded me of it and I just kept going over it, then I don't know whether that is conducive. I don't know. It just occurred to me that like some things that I've had in the past, you just don't need to go back over them because you have sort of dealt with it there and then. I think it just depends. Do you know what I mean? Do you reckon?
Yeah, of course it depends, but it depends on the situation. If you already dealt with it, it's okay. But if you feel like it's still haunting you somewhat, I think you should.
No, I see that.
Yeah, because for instance, I have this family member who has a big, feud with one of her brothers, and every time, she's talking, it doesn't matter about what, she always, brings her brother up, and she does it subconsciously, and
Yeah.
that's an indication to me, you haven't dealt with your problems, and that's just an example, you have countless examples, if things like that happen, I think it's just unhealthy, and you should.
No, I very
Yeah,
much
but
agree
of
with that.
course, if you've dealt, and remember, we are like, how old are you? 18, right?
Yeah.
And I'm 22. Aaron is in his 50s, I think.
Mm.
He probably already dealt with all those things, and
Yeah.
when you've done that, you should just leave it where it is, of course. If you at least deal with it in some way, at some time.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that's true, and I think when people don't deal with things, you can see it. You are right, and I think for an example I could give is there was this girl who would always bring up her boyfriend, and then whenever her ex-boyfriend, whenever she was talking about him, she'd always sort of say, "Oh, I don't care about it anymore." But yet there'd not been one time I'd met up with her where she hadn't brought it up,
Yeah,
and she didn't even know this, but that was clearly something she needed to, go
address.
back and look at.
But it doesn't even have to be something serious. For instance, a coworker of mine, every time she's talking about what kind of guy she likes, she says something like, "Yeah, I just want a guy who doesn't care if I don't shave my legs for 2 days." And she's always saying that, and that says to me that somewhere in her past, she had someone who was bitching on that, when you would say something like, "Oh, you didn't shave your legs, do it," and it would hurt her, but she probably didn't say it to him, and now
Mm.
she's still, somewhere, dealing with it, it's still coming up, so it can even be the most, in our eyes, stupid things. But
No,
if you feel like, something is bugging you, whatever it is, try to deal with it.
Would you say that you can be consciously aware of that sort of thing? Because obviously it's in her subconscious, but if she was to think about it and she was to like properly think about it, would she know that that had happened, or that she had feelings towards that, or would she be able to deny it, you know?
You know, that does
She might deny it on the surface, but if she was to think about it herself,
yeah.
would she be able to self-discover
You know,
that herself, you
I
know? Or is it
think
just that people don't do that?
that does depend on person. For me, it went like this. Okay, so I was in this big victim mentality, you know, and I wasn't really aware of it. And it began with someone pointing it out, and I would notice all these small things, and and you know the bubble would become greater and greater, and I would notice more things and more things. It would like grow, and you know now I'm at a point where I'm aware of almost everything, and I can become aware of things, you know, during the day. But it's like a muscle you have to train, you know. And I think definitely when you start out with things like this, it can be very hard to, you know, immediately, you know, come to conclusions like that. And maybe some people are maybe more gifted in it, or others, it isn't for, maybe it's not for some people, you know, I don't know. That does depend on the person, you know. But I
Yeah.
definitely think that if you want it, you can work on it, and you can become aware of those kind of things. But it's all
Yeah.
about being brutally honest with yourself, especially about embarrassing, you know, things like that. You know, you know the average person wouldn't want to deal with that. They would be like, oh, that was awkward. I don't want to think about it anymore. But you know what I mean? That's how
Yeah,
it
no, I
goes.
get what you mean. So it's just about being honest with what you think.
Yeah,
I think the reason, as you say, it is important to do this sort of thing is so you can move on from it
yeah.
and
I'm,
you know,
you know, I don't like it. You know, it fucking it fucking sucks. You know, I was on my vacation in Sweden and I felt sucky all the time because I
mm,
haven't dealt with it. I'm now with this big mess of shitty emotions and lacking self-trust, self-esteem, all this shit I have to deal with. You know, and I don't even
yeah.
know where to start. So, yeah, you know, it's not fun, but yeah, you have to start somewhere, and hopefully someday, you know, most of it will be gone, or I'll have found a way to deal with, you know, I don't know. It's just fucked up, but yeah, what
No,
can
I
you do
think
about it?
it's definitely possible, and I think it's definitely just a case of working with it and self-improvement again, isn't it? It's just keep at it, and then things just get better, don't they?
And the other thing is, you know, there's nothing wrong with the present. There's nothing wrong with you, you know. I mean, not you, but in general,
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with you. So I would think I would be focusing on all these negative patterns of mine that sometimes come up in, you know, in daily situations. But I also have this my real self, you know, my present self. And, you know, when I'm like that, you know, I have no problems. I talk with everyone, you know, I get girls left and right, no problem, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it's also important to realize that, you know, that if all if all those layers are gone, or most of them, and you're more uh, um, uh, you're feeling better about yourself, you know, there's basically nothing wrong with you. It's basically you doing it to yourself, you know.
Yeah, it is at the end of the day, isn't it? So I think that's why it's just a case of not feeling bad or guilty about anything that comes up, and just as people say again, just go with the flow. Just work with it, see what comes to mind, and if it is real, if you're not overthinking it and you're creating, say let's say this is it, right? This circle, you're creating this, it doesn't actually exist. You're worrying about it, and it's sort of still there. If it is a real feeling and it is something that needs to be addressed, then you just let that sit there. Don't worry about it. And if it is a feeling, you're going to feel it, you're going to work with it, and you're going to understand it, push through it, and, you know, work with it,
Yeah.
and work on whether it's going to be a bad thing, or whether, you know, work through it, you know?
That's really, yeah, that's true. And that woman I talked with said it as well. She also said like that I should use different words. I shouldn't uh, call feelings good or bad, you know, because
Yeah.
you know that has some vibration to it as well. They're just feelings, you know. It's like life is like an ocean, you know. All
Yeah, no,
those,
Aaron says he said to me, never look at anything as a problem
yeah,
because that in itself creates a problem.
yeah,
And the way that sort of, that's why when talking to people who have really got it, that's why it's important to talk with people who are psychologically minded and talking with people who are of a higher vibration as well is
yeah.
very conducive to your life because you sort of look at their perspective and then you can organize things a bit more, I think. Like that's I really like talking to people who are quite logical in a way because then you can organize things better, you know?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and Aaron has a lot of, you know, life experience as well. You know, I've talked with him twice now for several hours, and he talked the last time about, you know, traveling the world, and he had all these crazy stories. You could basically make a movie out of
Yeah,
his
you
life, you
easily
know.
could.
Yeah,
You would make like a load of them.
yeah, into the wild kind of thing, you know. It's
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that film.
really cool, man. Yeah, it's a great movie. You know, I really identify with the main character. You know, I would like to do
Yeah.
something like that.
No, I very much felt that. It was a really, really good movie. It works with some very interesting concepts, and I think the first time I watched it, it was very much about the anti-capitalist sides of it and
Hmm.
the anti-material. But then when I watched it the second time, I sort of realized that it was about more of the experience and it was about having people with him. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, it was very odd. It seemed to me that when I watched it the second time and in a retrospect, I was like, he seemed happiest when he was with people,
Yeah,
and maybe that's what it was all about, just experiencing life, you know?
that was the message because, you know, okay, so I'm gonna call this my shadow side, my side. You know, I would basically put this wall around me and not let any people in. And, you know,
Mm.
that side of me comes up when I'm meeting new people, you know, I don't trust. So when you're traveling, you know, by yourself, most people I wouldn't trust, you know, and I would think like, oh, I don't want to talk with him or her because of this and that, you know, it's just stupid childhood insecurities I'm still working on. But on the end of the trip, or maybe the third day, I was like, you know, this is, you know, it's fun, but it would be also fun to meet people. And then I actually had to think about that movie, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really about sharing, you
it
know.
is. Yeah,
If
sharing
you're
that
only doing it by
experience.
yourself, you know, yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, no, I very much see that, and I think I have sort of like a theory that maybe some people are complete in themselves, and some will connect with others that bit more. Like I don't know, I think if everything is essentially consciousness, when you feel whole is when you are whole. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the way I look at it. If you can get to a state of mind where you are whole and you feel completely comfortable in yourself and you're just the happiest, that's when that's just what it is. That's just what you are, you know?
Yeah, but that's something I've been thinking about as well because you know in self-help they're talking about being totally self-reliant, you know, so not needing anyone else for your own happiness. But you know, we're also social beings. If you're by yourself for 50 days, you know, good luck with feeling good about yourself. So how can you combine being self-reliant, but
But
also being with people, you know? I
I
think
think
it's basically about coming from a place of sharing instead of, you know, taking. I want you as my
yeah, that's
friend, or
true.
I want you and I want this girl, and you know, it's all
Yeah.
about that.
That's why I think again that's why unlearning is so important because we're taught very much we want this, we want to buy this, we want to get that, and when in essentially if this was a different archaic kind of society, we would be sharing everything. We'd be getting things together. Like I'm talking food now. We'd go out with a group of people and we'd make dinner together. We wouldn't say, this is my patch of land, this is you know, and I think there would be things still that you identify as uh, like solely important to you,
Mm.
but at the same time, there would just be that connection of sharing is important, you know?
That's something, you know, I've been struggling with as well because I have a problem with doing things in large groups, with people. I like to do it for a while sometimes, but after a while, I just want to be with myself. I
Mm.
like to do things individually. And I think I've been thinking about even if I at some point removed all of those insecurities, I think I'm still like that. I like to be by myself and sometimes go out, interact with people and then go back. So I
Mm.
definitely think, like you said before, you maybe have two types of people who like to be with people all the time, and also you have people who like to sometimes be by themselves. It's
I
maybe
think
the introvert extrovert debate. I'm not sure, but
I don't know. I wouldn't say it was two types. I'd say there was many types. I think that if again talking about consciousness manifesting as things, I think it must manifest in many different ways. Like when people are on psychedelics, they see people as all these different kind of creatures and beings and feel all the different vibrations. I reckon we just must be very complex things, and some people do prefer to be alone, and that is how they naturally resonate. And some people don't. And I think it's good to have a bit of both. Like we can probably go from one thing to another. I always be open to that sort of change.
and it's just maybe it's just a temporarily thing. Maybe when I gained more experience, and I have more trust in life, those things will change as well. I'm not sure where that behavior is coming from completely. I still don't know, a lot of things about myself. There's a lot of things to discover, and for you the same, of course. Even for Aaron, at 50, I don't know how old he is. The learning will never stop. My
Yeah, it's true.
grandfather told me that he still feels like 22, and he
That's
and he
good.
is 70. So yeah, that will
It's very
never
good.
change, I guess.
That's the way I want to look at things. Someone told me something like on my 18th birthday, I think someone made a joke that you're old now, or you're gonna get tired now, or something like that. I'll get a walking stick, and I was like, no, I'm never gonna be tired. Like it's just I want to have that. If you, that's why when people say things that don't sound realistic, I think if they think that, then even if they're wrong, they're gonna make it that bit closer to being right, like because they believe that they're, say, that bit stronger or that bit smarter, so they work that little bit extra, and that's been proven in so many circumstances. Like when in schools, teachers tell the kids that, oh, you're in this set, you're the smarter ones. They just naturally do better because they've been told that they are, and they believe they are. I just think sometimes when I hear people say these things that sound a little bit unrealistic, I still sort of think, you know what, you believe that because that will be better for you, you know?
No, I think about the body thing, I think it has something to do with your personal beliefs. I believe I'm a spirit or whatever in a body.
Mm.
The spirit is basically eternal, and the body isn't. So if you're coming from such a belief, it's logical that you still feel like when you were young, when you're
Yeah.
70, when your body is 70. But when you're coming from maybe a religion, Christianity or whatnot, and you're still young, you don't have the experience of being old, you'll maybe think like, oh, it will be like this or this when I'm 70. But then they'll find out when they're 70 themselves that it isn't like that. You're still the same person, only your mind is, or your awareness is, is staying the same, but your body is decreasing.
Yeah.
There's something to do with that as well, I think.
Yeah, that's why, again, I think this sort of thing is very important because it just, it is conducive and it is healthy for your consciousness. It just, once you're more aware of these things, you don't let yourself become involved with beliefs that will be harmful to you, like dogma and that sort of thing can influence the way you see the world and mean that you don't enjoy things as much as you should do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but I would even say thinking that you are uh, your name or your person or your identity is some dogma that can really harm you. Like, okay, my
Mm.
name is Rowan. Okay, so I'm Rowan. I am this and this. That can really harm you as well. That's actually already some dogma as well. Your your identity, you know, who you are in the world. You know, it can hold you down in some really subtle ways. You know, I've already noticed that with some people, they'll be like, no, I don't want to do this or that because I'm this or that. But
Yeah.
but then I'm asking them like, don't you want to do it because you don't feel like it, or because you think you are this and you can't do that? You know.
You
For
know,
instance, I'm going to an hip hop festival Sunday, and you will have only black people up there, and they'll look at me funny like, what are you doing here, man? You're white, you know. Yeah, so what? I enjoy
yeah,
this
yeah.
music. It doesn't
No,
have anything to do with you know things like that. You know, it's just stupid.
no, I think that's a good thing. I think that I've been working very much with the idea of conceptualization, like everything, these words and things we use, and can really dam can really damage the way we look at life. You know, if like the one word can't encompass how complex something is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. The most beautiful things we will try to conceptualize with words. Oh, that's those are just stars. That's just the
Yeah,
moon.
yeah.
That
And then it's like, no, they're not.
no, they are not exactly. Yeah. So yeah, but we need to have some way to communicate, right? It would probably
That's
be better
true.
if you could communicate with telepathy, but that's not the case yet.
Yeah, I think one idea that's interested me lately was Terence McKenna's memeology or memes. You know, and although memes at the moment are very jokey things, I think he was saying how memes could potentially be useful to us in the future because it's like one picture or logos that have one picture but all these connotations behind it, so you could just, like in the way the ancient Egyptians worked, they had like pictures and as their writing. I think that sort of thing is quite useful for the mind because it uses visual and you know what I mean, like visual kind of memory as well as the audible, what
Yeah, yeah,
words
I
are,
know
you
what you
know.
mean. Yeah, yeah, could be. Yeah, what do you think about the Sumerian text
I don't
about
know too much about that.
the ancient alien theory?
I don't know too much about that.
Okay, so they found these tablets basically in from the old Sumeria, I think. I don't know how it's called. It's just nowadays it's Iraq, but it's supposedly the oldest human civilization, and they
Mm,
basically deciphered those texts, and they were talking about the so-called Anunnaki coming down, and they created men to as slaves. So they made them from the monkeys that they were already on the earth, and they used their own genetics, to make humans. So basically, a mix between the Anunnaki and the monkeys.
Would that, is this the along the lizard kind of thing?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that, man. I forgot the name of this guy, but it's pretty. There
Is
are
it David Icke or?
No, 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 no. It's not David. This doesn't have anything to do with conspiracy theories. You know, how you interpret it. That's open. But there are some facts. So the Anunnaki means those who came from heaven,
Mm,
and the texts do say that they created men basically to as slaves to delve for gold for their home
mm.
world called Nibiru or something.
I may have heard something about this, and
But this has nothing to do with reptilians or
yeah,
whatsoever. But there are just a few really, really strange stories. Also, you have the Dogon tribe in Africa, and their gods, the Dogon basically, were these dolphin-looking gods that came down and gave
mm.
them information about certain stars that scientists didn't knew about up until the late 60s. So these tribes knew about all these, constellations and
Yeah.
whatnot before we basically did, and all
It's
these
very
crazy ass
interesting.
traditions they have and stories. It's really really interesting.
It is very interesting. I think Graham Hancock had a few things on that sort of thing. He was saying that the shamans used to see flying saucers in their like shamanic rituals and that sort of thing, where they go into different
Yeah,
states of consciousness. So I
But
think,
him is a little bit different. He is about he believes that there was that we are much older than people tell us. Archaeologists tell us that there was this advanced civilization before the prehistoric times, basically. And he also believes in that a lot of religion and folklore came from psychedelics. So the Adam and Eve story, for instance, he thinks that the apple, the god's fruit, that it basically was some kind of a mushroom, and that Mohammed seeing all the and that other guy, I forgot his name, seeing all these crazy things had something to do with mushrooms. And they also believe that monkeys ate mushrooms from cow shit, and that because of all those experiences, their brains began to evolve, and from there, humans came, I don't know. It's a little bit different, but it's kind of similar. Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah, there is a lot of different things that sort of look at different ideas. And I think the thing that I found interesting was the fact that although that is a different idea, there's still the prominent thing of in the past there was always this idea that something came down, or there was like a higher civilization before, like when you go further and further back. So maybe that was what the Anunnaki was, because the ancient Egyptians believed that there was gods before, like when the gods walked the land, and that was like before, and then they left or something like that. Do you know about that?
Yeah, but even in China, I went to China. Wait a second, what is er?
Odin is aangereden.
Huh?
Odin is aangereden.
Is hij dood?
Nee, hij bloedt heel erg.
En nu? Oh, wait a second, man.
En nu komt een ambulance.
Oké, ik moet nog even... Oké. Ik ga het gesprek even man. Yep, back at it again. I was in China, and there they even have folklore about, the Chinese princes. They traveled, with these machines to other countries and exchanged materials and whatnot. So and in India you have these crazy stories about green people and blue people and how they teach things to humans. It's if you delve into it, you will find a lot of stuff. It's really interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. I don't know too much about this sort of stuff, but it is interesting that it goes back over lots of different societies and countries.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You have some patterns. Also, the cowboys. The cowboys would talk about silver metallic hawks flying around. And the Chinese talk obviously about dragons, fire.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So, yeah, it's really interesting, man. And I think there's definitely something to that,
No, I think it's definitely worth looking into, and I think I'll have to look into it a little bit more, because I think it's always important to know a bit of past history and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and they found some interesting relics as well. Cave paintings, weird objects drawn in his famous paintings as well. So yeah, it's really interesting, man. There are a lot of mysteries around still.
No, it's nice to look into all that sort of mysteries. It is definitely something that's interesting and worth doing, because it gives a more complex picture of what the history of this planet,
Yeah, but the David Icke thing is crazy.
Yeah,
About reptilians. It's not that I don't believe it. I mean, I'm kind of open to the idea, but I'm just not sure. It's just crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, it's a crazy world, isn't it? I'm gonna have to eat in a second because I'm starving.
Do that, man. I'm gonna close off as well. We talked a good, I think, 1 hour and 20 minutes. So we have a good conversation to publish.
Yeah, it was cool. Spoke about some interesting topics. It was.
Should do this
very
again
interesting.
sometime.
We will do, man.
Okay, I will send you the link when I've done the whole thing.
Okay, thanks very much.
See you
I'll
soon,
speak
man.
to you soon.
Yo,
See you later.
Bye.
By the time that we all go deaf, I know that we'll find a cure for it. Yeah. land.